Hello and welcome viewers, I am Pia and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. US President Donald Trump has stated that he's held a very successful meeting on Gaza at the sidelines of the UNGA in New York. Speaking to reporters as he left the UN headquarters, Trump has stated that he expects Israel to join the talks soon and added that he believes a deal on Gaza can be worked out with Israel and key leaders. The Salavat petrochemical complex, one of Russia's largest, which is located in Bashkortostan region, has been attacked by Ukrainian drones, according to the local governor. This is reportedly the second such attack in less than a week. The local governor has stated that all emergency services are on the scene and firefighting measures are being taken. US President Donald Trump has stated that he believes Ukraine can retake all land that has been occupied by Russia and says that Kiev should act now, pointing to Moscow's major economic problems. Meanwhile, Trump has warned that incursions by Russian drones and fighter jets must be met with force. Super typhoon Gaza has slammed Hong Kong with hurricane-force winds and torrential rain. The storm has shut down the city, cancelled more than 700 flights and triggered panic buying in supermarkets. Now, as per reports, in Taiwan, 15 people are dead and 154 are missing. US President Donald Trump will meet Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on the 20th of October in Washington. The White House has confirmed that the two leaders will discuss security issues, including the AUKUS submarine deal. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has stated that he has held constructive trade talks with Chinese Premier Li Qiang and has stated that he expects the dialogue to deepen over time as both countries are seeking a way out of a tariff conflict. A massive 50-meter deep sinkhole has opened near a hospital in Bangkok, swallowing cars and electricity poles. It has led to the authorities sealing off the area. The incident, which took place in the Thai capital's Samsen Road area, has been linked to the construction of a nearby railway station. Italian film legend Claudia Cardinale has passed away at the age of 87. Known as a symbol of post-war European cinema, Cardinale enjoyed a long and celebrated career in film and theatre. Her roles in classics like The Leopard and Once Upon a Time in the West cemented her as one of the most iconic actresses of her era. Alright viewers, the news and updates coming in from New York. Turkey's President Recep Erdogan has stated that he's pleased with the results of the meeting that happened between Muslim leaders and US President Donald Trump. The meeting was held on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly to discuss the ongoing war and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Trump has emphasized that the conflict has lasted too long and has called for an end. The meeting also focused on securing the return of hostages taken by Hamas. Leaders from Qatar, Jordan, Turkey, Pakistan, Indonesia, Egypt and the UAE as well as Saudi Arabia participated in the discussions. Listen in to what Trump had to say.
So this is going to be a very important meeting. It's going to be a meeting with great leaders from a very important part of our planet, the Middle East, and we want to end the war in Gaza. We're going to end it. We're going to end it. Back and get the war over and get back to life in the Middle East, which is a beautiful life, but it's much more beautiful without wars, right?
Joining us on the broadcast is Matty Zweig, geopolitical expert, live from Tel Aviv. Thank you for taking out time speaking to us on NewsX World. Interesting meeting has taken place on the sidelines of the UNGA. Donald Trump had spoken for nearly 57 minutes, well past his 15-minute allotted time, where he highlighted extensively upon the alliance that the United States has with Arab nations in the Gulf. He then also went on to speak about Israel and the fact that the United States is backing Israel and will continue to do so. He has slammed European nations who have recognized Palestine as well, stating that this gives an advantage to Hamas. Now, of course, this meeting has taken place where Trump has met with different leaders from Muslim countries. Where do you think the war will be heading next? Because we have seen the United Nations come and point out that there is a famine taking place on ground in Gaza as well. The humanitarian situation is getting dire day by day, and the families of hostages as well. They're also out on the streets within Israel, urging Netanyahu to ensure that this does not escalate any further.
Well, hello, Pia, and thank you for having me. I would say that we are talking about all the points, but the main thing here is that in the last time, Trump has been very critical, as Israel as well, from the UN, from the one-sided view of all the conflicts and all the war. And now, what you say sidelined, it's not sidelined. It's a very important meeting that Trump held it in the UN, and showing himself, sorry for saying that, a little bit more as a star than the UN Secretary Guterres. And what you see there is that the most important powers of the Muslim countries, like from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Indonesia, Turkey, and others, Emirates, they were all together listening to Trump. It means they look at Trump as the real #1 leader in this moment, for good and bad. It doesn't matter if they also, on the side, they talk about tariffs or other things, but his message was very important for them, and it was very important for them to be united and together in this moment. And this is very important because if you listen between the lines, you have a president like the president of Indonesia, Prabowo, that he say that this conflict must end, even with a two-state solutions or other, but having in consideration all the security problems that Israel have, and it must be also defended in a future agreement. This is very important. This is the most, the biggest Muslim country in the world with more than 120 million people, which still doesn't have official relations with Israel, but they have a lot of commercial relations under the radar. And this is also to show that something is moving. Something also is going to be a second step for this next week when Trump is going to meet Netanyahu in the US. And I think it's a very positive message in general in the midst of all these problems and the ongoing war and the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And despite what had happened in the last week, that is the continuation of Israel attacking and taking some strongholds and places in Gaza in order to make weaker Hamas and to meet their demands of freeing the hostages and dismantling themselves. And from the other side, with a divided Europe, having some kind of declaration about a future Palestine state, which in this moment is not real because they have no boundaries, no limits, no borders, no clear leadership, which is split in several parts from Gaza and the West Bank. So everything, it's like the only consistent voice in this moment is Trump and his efforts to go forward for some kind of peace in the future.
All right, so I request you to stay on with us. We're tracking further updates. We're now learning that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has met with US President Donald Trump in New York. He's described their discussions as good and constructive. Speaking to reporters after the meeting, Zelenskyy has hailed this big shift in Trump's position after the US president had stated that Ukraine could retake every inch of territory occupied by Russia. Now, the Ukrainian president further added that Trump has the influence and power to be a game changer for Ukraine, stressing the importance of strong support from the US and the global community at large. Listen in.
With the president, of the United States was a good, constructive meeting. I'm very thankful for his efforts. I said it during the beginning of our meeting, but I think what is more important, what we discussed, I will not share all the details this time of our discussion, but it was good. And there are some moments about battlefield. I think that President is he knows some details, and I think he knows more details than usual. This post of Trump is.
And when he appears abroad in Beijing or somewhere else, it's only to buy more time for killing, pretending he seeks diplomacy. Putin only cares about using every meeting, every chance to keep the war going. I met with President Trump just now, and we spoke about how to finally bring peace, and we discussed a few good ideas, and I hope they will work. And I'm grateful for this meeting, and we expect America's actions to push Russia toward peace. Moscow fears America and always pays attention to the United States. So our soldiers this month, they occupied 360 kilometers, and they encircled 1,000 soldiers. And of course we want to exchange, because we need our soldiers in any case. But thanks to our soldiers, we have this possibility, this opportunity, and we will continue until Russia will stop this war.
Additionally, Zelenskyy has also highlighted that his discussions with Trump have covered the frontline situation, the counteroffensive operations near Dobropilya and Pokrovsk, and future security guarantees as well. On the other side, while speaking alongside Zelenskyy, the US president has warned that any incursions by Russian drones or fighter jets into NATO airspace must be met with force, urging that NATO should shoot down any Russian aircraft breaching alliance territory. Additionally, Trump praised Zelenskyy, calling him brave and saying that Kiev's forces are boldly protecting their nation's sovereignty. Listen in.
We're going to start a meeting with the president, who we all know very well, and he's a brave man, and he's putting up one hell of a fight, and we'll see how that all turns out. But we're going to have a meeting, and we have about 30 meetings scheduled today, but this is an important one. And we have great respect for the fight that Ukraine is putting up. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Later, in a lengthy post on his Truth social network, Trump has added that he believes Ukraine can reclaim all of its occupied territory in its original form, calling Russia a paper tiger. He also claimed that with NATO and European support, Ukraine has a real chance to win on the ground. Trump has also described the war effort as aimless and has stated it is time for Ukraine to take action, noting the economic strain on Moscow and what he calls resilience of Ukrainian forces. Meanwhile, at the UNSC meeting, Zelenskyy has called for harsher sanctions against Russia, emphasizing that Moscow must face the consequences to be forced towards peace and to prevent it from becoming a threat to Europe at large. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Matty Zweig. We've heard what both the Ukrainian president and the US president have had to say. And it's all very interesting because we've seen this constant change in Trump's tone, his rhetoric over the last couple of months, from ridiculing Zelenskyy over his outfit in the Oval Office to meeting Putin in Alaska, and now making a U-turn again. What do you make of this constant, repeated flip-flops that Donald Trump has been doing?
Well, I think this is very clear, and I think it's a good thing that Trump, even with delay, is adapting to the new reality. He's already 9 months into his administration, and he saw that everything that he said in the beginning is not happening. I mean, from the Russian side, they see that they can seize more and more territory, especially in East Ukraine, so they continue attacking. Even today and yesterday, there were civilians dead and also militaries. and they are continuing their war to get the maximum quantity of territory they can get before there is a real ceasefire, if it's going to be one. From the other side, Trump understood that all his wishful thinking of telling Europe to stop helping Zelenskyy, telling Zelenskyy to put himself on the side and wait for the goodwill of Russia is not happening. And then he shifted completely his narrative. And now there is a combination of three different points. From one side, I said in the past also in other interviews that there is a big dichotomy. From one side, the Ukrainians failed to do a real counteroffensive since last summer, 1 year ago almost, and they didn't get their territories back. They even lose much more. From the other side, they know exactly how to do big operations with drones and other devices and attack army camps, refineries, petrol, gas, and everything that is doing a big headache to more that existed to the Russian economy. And for instance, their strikes the last 24 hours have reduced Russian diesel exports in the lowest level since the COVID time. And because they hit big time in an area called Astrakhan, which is 650 kilometers far from the Ukrainian border. So they have the capability of doing all these big operations. And this is also a tool for them to stop and to make Russia cease the fire. But it's not going to happen if they are not going to have 2 points fulfilled, which is also Trump being part of this effort with all kind of economical disruptions of the Russian economy and sanctions and helping the countries in Europe to give more and more weapons to Zelenskyy. And he's starting to understand that this is the way. I mean, the way that he denied from Biden is the way that slowly he's talking about now. And so let's see what is going to be. But this is a big shift in his policy because the reality is what is showing him what is going on.
All right, sir, with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. We are shifting focus to news coming in from Southeast Asia. The death toll that is now being registered in Taiwan due to typhoon Gaza has now increased to 15. Meanwhile, we're learning that 154 people are still missing. The residents in Taiwan's eastern town of Guangfu waded through ankle-deep mud and damaged homes a day after a barrier lake overflowed to deluge the township in Taiwan's eastern county of Hualien. While the massive waves triggered by Super Typhoon Gaza have hammered the coastlines of Hong Kong as the world's most powerful tropical cyclone this year, lashed the city with hurricane-force winds and torrential rain. Now, as per reports, global warming is increasing the frequency of tropical storms and typhoons in Asia. Hong Kong has issued the Typhoon Signal 10, its highest warning, which urges businesses and transport services to shut down. Some locals have reacted to their dire situation. Listen in. All right, there seems to have been a technical glitch. Shifting focus to more updates coming in. A man who is identified as Ryan Ruth was found lurking with a gun near U.S. President Donald Trump's Florida golf course last year. He was found guilty of attempted assassination of Trump. A jury found that Ryan Ruth, age 59, intended to kill Trump, then a Republican presidential candidate, where he pointed a rifle at Trump through a fence while Trump was golfing at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. The assassin now faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. Meanwhile, Trump has stated that he was very appreciative and that justice has been served after he was found guilty of attempting to assassinate him in September 2024. Listen in to what Trump has said.
I'm very appreciative of the justice that was given and the way it was handled by Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and everybody that it's been, and their team of people. It was really well handled, and it's very important. You can't let things like that happen. Nothing to do with me, but a president or even a person. You can't allow that to happen. And so justice was served, and we'll see what happens. But I very much appreciate the judge and jury and everybody on that. It was so professionally handled, and it's a great honor. Great honor.
With us on the broadcast is Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist. So, interesting verdict by the jury. They had in fact found this assassin who fled the scene but left his loaded SKS-style rifle equipped with a scope, a magazine containing an additional 19 rounds of ammunition and the safety off, as well as steel armor plates and a camera attached to the fence pointing towards the 6th hole green of the golf course where he had been hiding. What do you make of this verdict that has now come out? Earlier, we do know that there was an assassination attempt against Donald Trump while he was a Republican candidate, even while he was campaigning and when he was golfing as well.
Well, I think it's an excellent verdict. I agree with President Trump. I only wish in India we got verdicts this quickly and this clearly, within a year of the incident. That the man is clearly guilty is open to common sense, and I'm sure the jury and the judge went into all the details of it. But there's the gun, there's the armor plating, there's the waiting. Trump was lucky once again. He survived this. But this man was, what is not known, and I'm curious about, at least not known as yet in the public domain, is who's behind this man. Was he a lone shooter, as they love to state? Because if you're lone, then there are no conspiracies. But this is obviously, to my mind, a conspiracy, and this man is only the shooting arm. So who's behind it, and what are they going to do about that?
That remains to be seen. Mr. Mukherjee, I request you to stay on with us as we continue tracking further updates from the United States. We're now learning that Jimmy Kimmel, the American television host and comedian, has returned to ABC last night and delivered a lengthy monologue addressing a range of issues. Kimmel started the show by paying tribute to Charlie Kirk's widow Erica and praised her for forgiving her husband's killer. Listen in.
I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. This on Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus, as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that.
The late-night host also reflected on the freedom of speech in the United States, criticizing the U.S. government's attempts to take away that freedom, branding it un-American and dangerous. Take a look.
This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. And they know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Stephen off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.
Additionally, Kimmel went on to call out U.S. President Donald Trump, warning that he wants to see comedians like him and others, including Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, removed for not aligning with his expectations. He's also urged his viewers to speak out against any such threats. Take a look.
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week. We have to speak out against it.
Meanwhile, Trump has lambasted ABC on Truth Social, stating that he was told the show had been cancelled and has called the network, quote-unquote, a bunch of losers. He's claimed Kimmel's ratings are weak and accused the host of pushing Democratic talking points and has even hinted at testing ABC in court. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Gautam Mukherjee. We've just heard what Jimmy Kimmel had to say in his comeback episode now that ABC is airing his late night show once again. Trump, meanwhile, has reacted very sharply to this and has stated, let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings. This is very interesting. Trump has also stated that he's likely to go to court. Do you think Donald Trump will go ahead and sue him and the network?
Well, he might, because he is very egoistic and he can't take criticism. I think Jimmy Kimmel is absolutely right on that. That the show has been restored its full marks to ABC and the people behind the network who have shown courage and let this man who is not a Trump fan have his say. Because, if you're going to turn everybody into a Trump fan, that's going to be difficult because he's a very controversial figure. He does strange things on a daily basis. He takes offense with all kinds of people, and he is pretty vengeful. So with all that going on, this is a good move, and I hope it gives other people the courage not to cancel shows when their anchors say something that is critical or pokes fun at Trump and his administration, because I think they form a very good target, and they also give a lot of material to comedians and anchors, and it's only right that they will use it. In India, by way of contrast, we have constant criticism, very vituperative and sometimes completely unparliamentary criticism of the Prime Minister in particular. And he just lets it roll off his back, and that's the way a democracy should function.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Viewers, shifting focus to more news coming in. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that the United States would help Argentina, but he would not think that a bailout was needed. This comes as Trump spoke alongside Argentinian President Javier Milei before the two leaders met on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. This comes a day after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that all options were on the table for stabilizing the Latin American nation. He also offered his endorsement for Milei's re-election bid so that his counterpart has another term to complete the job. Listen in.
And we are very much a fan of the job that he's done. So we are giving the president of Argentina our full backing and endorsement, and we think he's going to continue to do if he can continue to do the job that he's doing, it's going to be really something very special. He's going to be very successful, and he's going to be very successful in the election. I think to complete the job, the great job that he's doing, he needs the next term. And he's going to get it based on everything I can see.
All right, viewers, this is all the time we have for now. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.